Let's get your sales spinning in the right direction. Did you see some of those stats? Retaining your customers, getting them to refer you, building that customer evangelism that drives your organization forward. Before we get into the flywheel, one of the programs we have, which is a business acumen program around how finance actually moves through a business and the power of profitability. One of the key things that comes out in that simulation is it talks about the customer's voice being heard in every department of the organization. And when that starts happening, I think you're going to engage your flywheel. One of the biggest challenges, we don't engage our customers to understand what's really valuable to them. And so I think as we start going into the flywheel concept today, I'd really want you to think about what are you learning, what could you apply, and what do you want to know more about? So let's have a look at the first. There's four legs. The four legs to the flywheel are effective time and territory management, the heartbeat of sales execution, the CRM. When I talk CRM, sometimes people go, I hate the CRM. It takes me away from what I really love doing. I want to challenge mindset when we talk about the CRM. Sales forecasting, predictability, and growth in the flywheel, we need that. And then high value client engagement. That is the key to the flywheel momentum. So let's start with that very first leg, which is a highly effective time and territory management. It's the heartbeat of sales execution. I think when some people say, when they hear that this is what their number is for the year, they think, oh my God, how am I going to do it? I'm going to have to work so very hard to deliver the results. What they're not thinking is, how smart can I be in the time that I have to focus on the things that are going to deliver the best outcome? That is powerful. So what we've got to have a look at is high impact sales organizations. We understand that time is the most valuable asset. What do we mean by that? Well, where you spend your time is where you get the outcome. Now, you might say to me, well, I spend a lot of time doing administration. Well, let's have a look at the things that really are important. And maybe what you perceive as administration is actually time that is strategically wired for you to get better at what you're doing. I'm going to touch on that shortly, but that's the first thing. So we've got to shift our mindset. Please don't work harder, work smarter. If you can, use AI. If you can, stop driving all over your territory like a headless chicken. You know, if you were in South Africa today and dialing in, why would you, if you were based in Sandton, drive all the way to Pretoria to go and do something for the morning, come all the way back, then go all the way down to Roodepoort? Why would you do that to yourself? You are seriously wasting time. Instead of clustering your meetings, if I've got Pretoria, I'm going to make sure that all my Pretoria clients are going to be seen. And then I'm going to go, who else is in Pretoria that I could be seeing? And who is on my prospect list? And what are some of those clients that are based up? See, suddenly my time is worked in on strategy and good time investment versus running around. The second thing is we don't chase deals. We manage our time with precision, focusing on high value opportunities. I love using this analogy of chickens and eagles. Imagine we've got this farmyard. And in this farmyard, we've got a whole lot of chickens. Now, you guys don't know me, but I have family who have farms in Kroonstad. And so I grew up as a little girl going to the farm, seeing a lot of chickens and ostriches. I didn't see a lot of eagles, but I can imagine this farmyard in my mind. I can see my auntie's backyard. So the chickens are in there, but we've got some eaglets, which are baby eagles. I want you to visualize this in your mind. And at the bottom of this farmyard is a big wooden, like a dry wooden stump, but it's got a big kind of branch to it. And on there sits a squadron of eagles. Don't you like that? It's a squadron of eagles. Now, I always like saying, if I had to make the difference between a chicken and an eagle, when I walk into the yard to feed the chickens, I will throw corn and they'll all run like crazy things, like flapping their wings. Come on, I'm sure you must be smiling. Like jumping on top of each other trying to get the corn. And they get excited by a worm and they're like, whoa, got a worm. Then we've got to go, okay, so if we were using all of that energy chasing corn and worms, is that what will set our business up for success? Or are we going to be like an eagle who's going to keep their eye on the prize and go and fetch it and bring it back and be deliberate and focused on what's high value and what really aligns to us growing both our customers' organization and our own? I want to be an eagle. I want my sales team to be eagles. I want them to be deliberate and disciplined and know what a high value activity is. Here is how it can come to life for you in your team. First thing is, please, they should be using their calendar. I always get a heart attack when I hear people don't use their calendars effectively. Should be marked. I color code everything. I come from financial services initially, and we color coded our diaries so that we knew where we are going. So time blocking is really important. Please don't just put it on snooze when something comes up for you to change your activity. Make sure you do it. And the other one is sales discipline. Some of the sales discipline that's required are the things that are not only going to fill your pipeline, but the customer relationship, strategic planning, closing activities. Really, I like saying to any sales professional out there, you should have a relationship with your funnel. I call it the funnel relationship time. It's the first thing you do in the morning as you have your cup of coffee. If you're doing it from home or if you're doing it in the office, you should be looking at that going, where am I focusing? I know I've got these appointments today. Do these align to where I've got to go with my pipeline, with my activities, and with the success I'm driving? The second one is territory segmentation. Incredibly important. So many organizations do not do this well. Okay. That is your account size, the value of that account. We used to have A, B, C, or D accounts. One of my clients one day, because I had to hand him over to somebody else working, he sent me an email because he was a sales director. He said, have I just dropped to your C client list? The C account list? And I said, no, of course not. He said, well, I really want to work with you directly. That client has been a firm deliverer of business revenue in my practice for the last 12 years. And he might not be giving me stacks of revenue because he's now a CEO of a small medical device startup, but he is loyal and he refers me out. Do you see how my funnel flywheel is working for me? The third one, the pipeline management, please. This is if you are not doing that funnel relationship management, which is looking at your pipeline every single day, how are you going to know what you're doing? So it is the heartbeat of this whole process because it spins and it makes sure that you know where you're going, you read into it, and you use your ability. Don't get scared of it. If it looks a little bit empty, relook at how you're working. Because it shouldn't be stuffed chock-a-block, but it should be working for you, consistently bringing in revenue. Just remember, it's the heartbeat. Okay, so when we do these things well, we start mastering our time and territory management. We can increase our productivity by 40%. Could you imagine across your rep group and your sales team, if they increase their productivity by 40%, what would be happening in your revenue? What would be happening with your customers? I can assure you that things will dramatically change. Let's talk about that dreaded CRM, please, that nobody wants to use, but we know we need to use. I think a lot of salespeople think that the CRM is a management tool to have a look at the data. Yes, it is, but in actual fact, it's not for management. It's for you. It's your tool. It's the tool you use to plug in the information you need to strategize, to think about what you'd like to do with that customer, to map out the key people that are in that account, to really consider the opportunities. Is this the kind of customer you really need to go after? Not only does it do that, but you'll be able to see, well, this customer, I'm calling them 100 times and not getting anywhere. Are they the right customer for us? You can use so much data analytics for yourself. Second one, sales velocity increases when your teams use the CRM because it's tracking, its execution, and its precision. The speaker I had on this morning's webinar was talking about how he put 3 sports teams up at one of his sales conferences. And he said he asked them which was the winning team, but he used the scores and it was easy to see. And then he put the tracking data up of his sales team and he said, who's the winning team? And you could see through the data the teams that needed improvement. Now, what we're saying is not shame your people. Please don't do that. Shaming is bad. Rather, get your people to look at it walk into reality, and own their next steps, crucial. Let's talk about how it comes to life. Mapping your client data for growth. High-performing teams do this consistently. They log their insights, they log their interactions, and they buy signals. They're buying signals to drive personalized engagement. Years ago, when I was in recruitment with Kelly, we had a database, and my God, everything had to be in that database. Everything was in that database. And we knew who we called. We had our client meetings. We had everything in there, because at the end of the week, we could draw a report out of the system and we could see what our productivity looked like. Where were we going? Which clients were we speaking to? It was so powerful. If we don't use this, how can we shift our performance? The second thing is a strategy hub. I like saying to salespeople, you need to spend time on your business, not just in your business. If you're just in your business, you're going to run around like a headless chicken. In Australia, we call it a headless chook. And you're never, ever going to be able to really get a grip on where are we now, where do we need to go, and what am I going to do from a deliberate engagement perspective. I think data insights are crucial for us, both as sales leaders, but also teach your sales people how to own it. And then, of course, forecasting with accuracy. When we start using the CRM better and we start being on our business, we start getting a good understanding of the elements that move this customer forward. We start getting a good understanding of the gaps that we have in our capability, and we start asking for help. We also start understanding the things that could be stopping us from getting where we've got to go. Now, I do want to talk to you about forecasting because it's very important, and I want to just touch on the pipeline quickly. So many organizations have got stages of their forecasting or stages of their pipeline. And one of the biggest things that we've recognized is that those stages are not broken out into salesperson activities and customer commitment. And when that doesn't happen, your sales team don't have a good understanding of the traffic lights they're looking for that will really help them understand if something's going to close off or where it's got stuck and what they can do about it. If you haven't done a strategy overview like that, please do yourself a favor. It is crucial, because how do we set people up for success? We don't tell them what to do and micromanage them. We equip them with thinking, we equip them with the capability, and we equip them with the expectation that they're going to run their business. When this gets done really well in organizations, we can see a huge adoption to the CRM, huge, because I'm not seeing the CRM as something that my leader needs. I believe that CRM is something I need so that I can forecast and that's so that I can plan and understand exactly where things are at. The sales forecasting predictability and growth in the funnel. How do we know when we're actually on track? That whole gut feel that salespeople have, as I've said to you before, can be very stressful. One of the things that I did as a sales leader was, and I hope all of you are doing this, I made sure that I was spending one-on-one time with my salespeople every week. Why? It is my obligation to them to work with them once a week and to sit with them and to help them think through their pipeline. But here's the thing I want to give you as a gift. I like giving gifts, by the way. If you are asking them all the questions in that forecasting tool and you are so engaged on their work, why would they do it? You've already had a look. Who is owning their funnel and their opportunity forecasting? You are, as a sales leader. We've got to shift the dial. I'm going to share a story with you of my own career. I worked in the global consulting practice, and I had a sales manager who probably was my worst nightmare. In actual fact, I used to sit with her once a week, and I'd get so anxious going in because I knew we were just going to be talking about how I'm failing. And we did. And she was brutal. It was painful. And in actual fact, it didn't inspire me to change anything. The challenge was I was a single mum and I had to get in there and make it work. So I needed to get it, understand it. I sat outside a company in Roseland in Pretoria called Bevcan. And I went there to see the head of HR to do a leadership program, which, by the way, I closed. I'm very proud to tell you that. And we hadn't yet closed it. And I just walked out of that meeting and I flipped open my Filofax and I was like, oh my God, I've got this one-on-one conversation with this woman tomorrow. It is a nightmare for me. And she's absolutely going to rip me to shreds. And in that moment, I don't know if it was a God moment or what moment it was, but there were two realities that hit me. Number one, this needs to stop. And number two, I need to own it. And so I sat with my numbers and I went, all right, so let's work this through 30, 60, 90-day numbers. How am I going to break my numbers up across those months? And what do I need to do? And where are they at in the funnel? And what does that mean? And what does the customer have to do next? I had such an epiphany. I got it. It was liberating. I came to our next catch up the following day, fully prepared for the conversation. In actual fact, I said, before you ask me, I'm going to run you through my forecast. I'm going to share with you where I'm at, where I'm going to go, the challenges I have, the opportunities that are lying ahead for me. And then I'll ask you what I need from you to support me. And at that stage, please, all go on every single question you can ask me. I delivered it so beautifully. She didn't have one question for me. Actually, I don't think she ever thought of the question she might have for me. It was life-changing, and I took her job 6 months later. Not that I wanted it. That's another discussion. I got tapped on the shoulder for it because I was on my business and I knew how to move my business forward in a flywheel. High-performing teams leverage their real-time CRM insights, AI-driven forecasting models to anticipate market shifts and predict deal closures and prevent revenue gaps. That revenue gap component, that seriously is something that we can work on. If I know I've got a gap and I know this is what we do in our organization, I've got to find who would value it. And then I've got to make sure that I have a plan to actually align that to that kind of customer. And you know what? I think sometimes we have such a fear mindset that really holds us back from being able to step into that powerful space. So I'm going to share with you how this comes to life. Data-driven forecasting. Our CRMs today are so brilliant. I remember using Excel. It was a real pain, but we had the most amazing forecasting system in Excel years ago. Please, please, please. If you put shit into your CRM, shit'll come out. I'm just being really honest with you. And I was actually listening to somebody who phoned me. They actually phoned me today after the webinar and said, you know what? Salespeople put shit into that CRM. Sorry for the word, but it just is what it is. Because they are so scared not to have information in there. Number one, they're so scared to be found out. Number two, found out what? That they are not good enough. For what? Good enough measure is never something we should be saying to our person, you're not good enough. What's happening is you're not bringing your skills and capabilities to the table here. Why? Is it an understanding component? Is it because you don't understand the products, you don't understand our customers? What am I doing as a leader to enhance your ability to be successful here? Okay, so I'm coming back to that using the data, shit in, shit out. I would much rather they clear it out and have solid opportunities in their pipeline, solid data, so that when we're having a look at that, we understand what the gap is and we can work towards it. There's nothing more challenging than thinking you're going to make all this money and nothing comes in. Regular forecast reviews. Please, 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 please. Weekly. This is not a monthly thing with your whole team around the table. Stop that. That is a bad idea. That just, people will just zone out. They're not getting anything from that meeting. What a waste of time. I know you as a sales leader might think this is an easy fix. It is a really ineffective fix. One-on-one coaching is crucial. In actual fact, that is your responsibility to your team. Make sure you're doing strategy coaching with them and make sure you're doing growth coaching. Now, it could be half and half. I know when I coached News Corp's sales directors, we always had this big discussion about where we're spending our, like, would we do it now? Would we do it then? It's entirely up to you. But that strategy coaching session is not about you talking all the time at your salesperson. It's about shifting your accountability for that number and handing it to them and saying, thank you for contributing. This is your contribution to our hive, to how we're going to be better together. How are we going to do it? What do you have? What are the clients in your territory look like? Have you thought about how you could strategize? So many things can be done. And you know what? It is exciting. The last one, aligned sales strategies. Please make decisions based on trends and probability scoring and predictable analytics rather than just intuition. A couple of years ago, there was the Me Too movement. I think you all know about it. And of course, Christina, me, I had a brainwave. I'm going to run a women in leadership program. And I mean, I love empowering women to lead. I failed. I failed so miserably. And I'll tell you why. Two things. Firstly, I didn't understand that in Australia, when we want people to do this, they couldn't negotiate with their work to get time off, first thing. Second thing, they didn't want to do it on a Saturday because they were spending time with their children. They couldn't do it of an evening because of all the homework that needed to be done. So there was no way these women were giving themselves the opportunity to step in to take on a program like that, number one. Number two, I priced it right out of the market. And number three, I spent a lot of time on it and I didn't get the return. So that sales strategy wasn't the greatest. I will tell you this, I never stop using the stuff we've designed. So the effort I put in for that, we were able to use for a few other programs in order to get the dial moving. And here's the gift. The gift is we were customer centric. So some of our customers that were in healthcare, they had fertility nurses. We were able to spend some time with these people and I could actually make it a profitable workshop. It was not meant to be a workshop. It was meant to be a transformational program for women in leadership. So I'm just sharing that with you. Here's the impact. If I do these things well, data-driven forecasting, regular forecasting reviews, aligned sales strategies, here's what happens. Companies that prioritize sales forecasting achieve 10 to 15% higher revenue growth rates and reduce that last minute deal slippage by 28%. I'd love to say, yeah, thumbs up that, but no, I took it out of research. I want to say this to you. I had wise words shared with me when I moved from being a really high achiever in recruitment into consulting. Penny was her name. She shared this with me. She said, don't look at the number you've got to close. Look up at the number and go and sort your clients out and make sure you add value to them and you solve their problems. When you solve their problems, they will come back for more. When you're trying to get the number from them, you will always run into yourself. Isn't those wise words? If we're doing it from a place of adding value and we're trying to add value to our customer, things change. Customer centricity. Do you see the flywheel coming to life? It's, oh, wow, I couldn't have written it better myself. Now we're going to go into that high value client engagement component. This is the key to the flywheel. In a high performing sales culture, customer retention is as important as acquisition. I can't tell you how hard it is to get new customers. You know, I know. Why do we do that? Why do we not treat them with respect? Of course, in any relationship, boundaries are really, really important. But what we've got to do is we've got to make sure we're working with our high value clients. Now, in order to identify your high value clients, I hope you've created some personas or some ideal customer profiles, which actually tell you these are our ideal customers. These are the people we were meant to serve with that specific solution. And then test it. Test it. If you're not getting from these customers what you're predicting, see how you can shift and pivot that. I have this analogy when I facilitate some of these programs, and it's called a sexy goat. Now, I don't know how many animals I've spoken about today already, so I hope you're laughing with me, but a sexy goat is a customer that looks really attractive, but they're a goat. They're a sexy goat. They are never going to be attractive. In actual fact, they're probably going to butt you. I have a thing that I always tell my team. We are not paying clients to work with us. That's not arrogant. That's business acumen. I cannot give away what we don't have. And if I give away everything that we have from a non-profitability perspective, we won't exist. So we've got to be really real, high value clients that are highly engaged. When we don't have them in our, how can I say that? In our fan group, we'll have high value clients that are not engaged. And the challenge I always give sales people is, how do I move them from not engaged to engaged? What do I do differently? What is important to them? What makes them tick? So important. The flywheel really thrives on ongoing value-driven customer engagement. Sales teams must continuously nurture, develop, and expand the relationships with their most strategic customers. For about 9 years, we supported government-funded healthcare organizations in Australia in our practice. It was a time of great reform in Australia. We were working with really smart CEOs that were setting up these primary healthcare networks across Australia. What an incredible gift. At the time, it was the right high-value customer for us. It worked. We've had to shift and pivot as those organizations matured. No longer were we their partner that could support them, and the value, it just wasn't mutually beneficial, which meant we've had to craft new client areas. But I'll give you the gift. Those CEOs that we've worked with for so long, we will always be brought into where they are now to help them grow what we need to, because they are people that believe in what we do. So I just wanted to leave you with that thought. How this comes to life. Firstly, proactive account management. You need to be spending time focusing on the accounts you have. Regularly high value, go and have a look. What are our touch points? Have we spidered this account enough? Do we know enough people? Because when your decision maker leaves, you're hoping that your influencers could actually introduce you to the new decision maker so that you can stay within that account. Personalized value proposition. Once again, without the data, how will I know what the value proposition looks like? And then finally, expansion and referral strategies. I was speaking to a sales director today, and it was a fantastic conversation about cross-selling and upselling. When we've got a customer that is already engaging with us, why are we not maximizing that partnership? If it's not a partnership, then you are very definitely a commodity for them. And if you're a commodity, they can exchange you for somebody else. I don't like being a commodity. I don't like working in those spaces with customers because of the nature of the transformation work we do. We want to be trusted advisors, or we at least want to be what they perceive as an a resource, an expert. So where am I going with this? If my customer is the center of my flywheel, they refer me on to others and it moves consistently. It is such an incredible gift because instead of going to hunt brand new clients, my clients are consistently coming back for more, and they are referring. What I found the other day, I had a call from a company called Ozito. They were referred by someone across their dinner table who had had coaching from us, and they mentioned they were going through these issues, and they said, you got to phone Christina Foxwell from Ignite Purpose. She'll sort you out. Isn't that amazing? And those referrals are better than 100 leads that I'm trying to convert into something great, or 100 cold call phone calls. And by the way, we can talk about cold calls. It is a very hard thing to just do cold calls versus building strong partnerships and then expanding. So when we talk about expanding our customers, we talk about expanding wider and deeper into that account, different divisions, different departments, different areas, different solution areas. And then finally, the white space opportunity. What are the things around that customer that we can maximize and work with that will be like a spider web and a network around them? When we do this well, businesses with structured high-value client engagement strategies experience 25% higher customer life value and 35% faster sales cycles. When I get a referral like that and it's a senior leader, we know we'll switch on within a month. Absolutely, without a doubt. Sometimes do we have the capacity is the question, but we can do that. Why? Because that customer is a lifetime partner for us. If you're not doing this in your world at the moment, you should. You should really focus on customer lifetime value and use that as a measure, because when your customers are understood and engaged in your world takes care of itself. So the impact of the flywheel on sales culture. I'm an absolute stickler for building high-performing sales cultures. We've got to teach language. We've got to impact process. We've got to make sure the rhythm is right. What is the operating rhythm? How do we get that moving so that we can create velocity? And then how do we get people in the right mindset to step into accountability for themselves and for how they're showing up in our business so that we can be successful together? Very important. Just by the way, you cannot make people accountable. I just want to blow that out the water quickly. People choose to be accountable. If you think you are making people accountable, you are micromanaging them or you are force-fitting them into something. What do I mean? When a salesperson wakes up for themselves and they see their opportunity in your organization, they want to show up. They worry about their number. They think consistently about how they can strategize to get more in. They're not doing as a check-in, check-out. I do not believe anybody in sales can say they have a 9-to-5 job. That is impossible. I don't want to make you all workaholics, mind you, but it's something that gets into your skin and then you actually just so passionate about driving your organization forward because of the value you create for others. I hope that was quite impactful. We've got to get our business to move from transactional mindset to a growth-oriented sales culture. Growth-oriented sales culture. At Ignite Purpose in our practice about 12 years ago, based on my experience with Huthwaite and with Achieve Global, I created what we call the value continuum. On the left-hand side of that value, it's a model, is what we call transactional engagement. And as a transactional person, I'm either a professional visitor, and I can tell you as I'm sitting here today, you've got some professional visitors in your team. And if they're doing that, they are wasting time and resources. It is such a waste on your business because you're paying for their petrol or you're paying for their mileage or, I mean, imagine if they could spend that time engaging in solid relationships that are value-based to uncover needs, such a different situation altogether. So professional visitors, if they are data dumping on your customer or just talking product talk, especially in some engineering or really high spec jobs, please, it's a waste of time. That person is just going to learn from you and you're not creating enough value from them. They're probably going to go and buy somewhere else. And if you're making yourself cheap, please don't do that because that is all they'll hear and they will not respect or value your organization for what they are bringing. If we've flicked over, I call it the tipping point, we hop across the tipping point and we have a look at the other side, which is all about consultative engagement around value. We have the relationship. We have a mindset of growth, of creating value for our customers. We understand what's going on for them. We are understanding their needs. We are starting to understand the industry sector we're working with, that we then give them what they need and we start understanding trends. That trend allows me to be effective. Let me give you number 2. I can talk about that value continuum all day. I'm not going to do it. The second one, pipeline anxiety to predictable sales velocity. Remember, I touched on this earlier. If your salespeople are petrified to put their numbers into their pipeline, or if they over-exaggerate their numbers, that always gives me a little bit of an anxiety attack, actually, when they put so much into the pipeline and it all kind of gets jammed up and they're not clearing it out. One of my clients a while back was talking about in their world, they have to have a certain probability ratio in this month. We used to have that too in consulting. It needed to be a 0.8, which meant we've already booked the date. Everything's ready. We're ready to roll. We're moving forward. It gets delivered this month. That's a 0.8. But if there's a 0.6, for example, in this month that we're in, it's never going to happen. So what we teach people is to move away from the pipeline anxiety and start having a relationship with their funnel or their pipeline. I'll just say it again, understand the dynamics, understand how to create a process flow that's a rhythm around your pipeline. I'm going to break it down one more level. If I know where my business is stuck, And as an organization, we have actually crafted what each area of that activity funnel that brings the business in looks like, with the customer at the center, not your business. Nobody gives a shit about your business from a customer's perspective. It's about them. If you understand what they need and what they've got to do at every single stage of the pipeline to continue the journey with you, your team will know what to do differently. I want to share one more story. I've got 7 minutes. I've got 100 stories. I'm only going to share one now that I think I will. Through the GFC, which is the global economic financial crisis that we had in 2008, it was my first year and a bit in Australia. I'd come from South Africa, which I must tell you, I think South Africans are the most resilient salespeople in the world. We always find a way. But it was hard. We were in a market where nobody wanted to buy consulting and training services. People were cutting that. They were cutting their budgets, and we really had to think differently about how we were going to serve our market. And one of the things I came up with was reinforcement. If people have already invested in their organizational education process and stuff, for me, it's about transformation, not education, because anyone can get an education, but what's the application in real life? How could we shift that capability set to actually help their organizations through a really tough time? So what we did is we created a strategy. And by the way, we made our number that year, which is a miracle. I like miracles. And we sold them reinforcement and like drip-fed consulting services, in which was off the back of what they had invested with us over the last 3 years, so that they could actually get their organizations to be more effective through that financial crisis. Anyway, I had one of the sales team with me, one of my leaders, and he said to me, Christina, my pipeline is constipated. And he had pipeline anxiety for absolute sure. And I was like, oh my God, Shane, what are we going to do? He said, I don't know what to do. Everything's jammed right in the middle of that pipeline and nothing's moving. I could just think constipation. I'm hoping you're laughing with me. And I was like, oh God, okay. And I had an epiphany in that very moment, which goes to shifting your mindset and looking differently at something, which creates velocity. I said to him, Shane, I think what you're doing is you need to shift perspective. What you're seeing at the moment as a brick wall is in actual fact a stepping stone. Let's step away from where you're at the moment. Let's kind of brainstorm what actually is happening. We went and had a long discussion. He went back to the customer. He did some work in the customer organization to understand what was blocking that sale. He came back and you know what? We created velocity because he looked at it differently. He was no longer fearful of what was happening. We could shift the dial and move things forward. Finally, individual competition to collaboration and knowledge sharing. When we've got this flywheel moving and we've got people in our team adopting the CRM, pipeline activities, strategic focus, they should be working at least, please, a half a day of strategy on their business every single week. Having a look at that. What it does is, and we're sharing our knowledge with each other, we become a hive. The worst thing you can do is to pit salespeople up against each other, saying, why aren't you as successful as Christina? Like she's an absolute machine. Can't you learn from her? No, that is not okay. That message is not okay. Firstly, you're victimizing Christina because she is going to have a big problem with the rest of the team. And secondly, everyone feels ashamed because they don't feel good enough. Stop that. Why don't you create a team environment where we all bring what we have so that we can be better together? One of the things I've done as a sales leader is I used to create our number forecast, and I used to say, this is the gap. This month, Christina might be contributing. Next month, John's going to contribute. But this month, this is what Christina's done. Well done, Christina. Well done, John. Well done, Josh. Well done, Carolise. You guys have done a fantastic job. Next month, Carolise carries us, and John's clients might be a bit low. But you know what we do together is we share knowledge, we create a common rhythm, we have common understanding, we share industry information, and we get very excited how we can be successful together. Teams that do that are unstoppable. And finally, from short-term wins to long-term growth and retention. The chicken behavior is the short-term wins. The long-term growth and retention is where we want our customers and ourselves to be. Because what that does is you start layering your opportunities to create consistent outcomes with different clients. The flywheel of your business moves and you've got revenue. And you don't have to fight for it. It just happens because your rhythm and your focus on what is valuable is taking place every single day. All right, final thoughts. And then let's see, I got one message from somebody earlier. It was Nadine, and she said the chat was disabled. But maybe you guys can give it a go and see. I've tried it, said you can all upvote, you can all comment, you can submit questions. So we are going to do a quick Q&A. And hopefully, Nadine, however you did that message to me, I did get it. But I just want to leave you with this before we go to a quick Q&A. The flywheel, it doesn't just change numbers. It changes people's lives. It changes their mindset. It changes how they work together. It gives them confidence. Instead of your salespeople chasing deals, your team starts having this heartbeat of how they can be successful. Instead of reacting to problems, your team proactively manages the pipeline. So they're not getting that brick wall or getting constipated all the time. They are finding flow. And the last one is, instead of competing against each other, they win together. Your business will start having consistency in language, practice, approach, understanding, and flow. I've got a question here from Manel. How do you re-engage with former clients? Okay, here's the first question. Please make sure that they are not a sexy goat. Please. Sexy goats should not be on the agenda. Those are customers that take away from our well-being and our profitability. If you want to engage with them human, phone them, have a coffee, go and have a conversation, see where things are at. Maybe say, sorry, you haven't been in touch. Re-engage the conversation. Please don't become a best friend. That is bad. You'll be friend-zoned and your business will dry up. But go and approach them with something that's valuable, something that might make a difference. Part human, part value. Thanks, Anel. I hope I answered you. I've got questions coming through. Thank you, Karen. Karen said that we're able to send a message via Q&A. You can send a message. I thought I am in Q&A at the moment. So, oh, yes, everyone, if you go to Q&A, you can. Thank you, Karen, for helping me. Are there any other questions? Come on, this is your time. We've got no time, but you can throw any other questions for me. I'm available for the next minute or two. Any other questions from anybody in the webinar? No? Well, as you can see, oh, there's another one. Karen, with remote working being a norm, what steps do you take to sell your business? Ooh, that's very interesting. My whole team are remote. And I've always had remote teams because I used to work with teams across South Africa and across Australia and New Zealand. We've got to bring people together where we can to learn and to understand together. And we've got to make time for our team. I don't care where they're based. It is your responsibility to make time for them. The steps to sell my business, I'm very clear on the value proposition I have. And I'm very clear on who might value from what we have. And I engage them. Those are high value clients for me. They will generally buy what we have and we'll have a story that aligns to what they need. So I think those are important. Thank you, Karen. I don't know if I answered your question, but I hope I have. Okay, thank you for hanging out with me today. Go and have an amazing day if you're in Africa, if you're in Australia. Thank you for dialing in. I will no doubt see you all soon. Have a beautiful day.